Hello, this is the Irish Extra, and what? What are you expecting from me right now? Yes, Alexander Isak broke his leg. Are you expecting me to laugh right now? To giggle like some hyperactive elf from one of those awful Christmas films? No, I'm not going to do any of that, okay? Because, yes, it is sad. Am I someone who sits here and wishes somebody pain just before Christmas? No, well, actually, I did stay up to watch the Netflix fight, hoping Jake Paul would get chinned. And when he did break his jaw in two places, I'm not going to say I was crying into my bowl of Nesquik, but it definitely didn't feel like no funeral. But look, no, still, Isak is injured, and look, I'm not going to sit here like some classless egg and mock him for shattering his leg in two places against Spurs. No, it's horrible, and I wish it didn't happen. I know you won't believe it, but come on. I think anybody who actually wishes injury on another footballer, you're an evil little panda bear. That's what you are, and that's not what I am, okay? So look, it's sad to see Isak's dream year end this way, because this was a dream 2025. Come on. He began this year in razor hot form for Newcastle, became a legend, a very, very brief legend, but a legend nonetheless, when he scored the winning goal in the League Cup final against Liverpool. If he had just stayed with the Magpies, I promise you now, I don't think there's many other footballers in England who would be as worshipped as Isak is. In fact, I don't think there's a single one. Not even Erling Haaland is as worshipped in Manchester as Isak would have been in Newcastle had he stayed. Seriously. But no, he goes to Liverpool instead, and his season has just ended, pretty much, because he's broken his leg, having scored his second Premier League goal. So really, because him scoring that was followed up with vicious pain. Actually, you know, he probably scored that goal with a broken leg, as he was being fouled by Van den Ven literally at the moment he struck the ball. So he wouldn't have even had a half a second to drink in the goal and be happy. No, he couldn't. His celebration was lying on the floor in anguish. You know, as if it was a scene from Saving Private Ryan. The only goal he's been able to celebrate was West Ham away 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. But like, his season has ended without him scoring a single Premier League goal at Anfield. He only scored once at this ground, and that was against Southampton in the Cup. In fact, to this day, I still think Harry Maguire has more Premier League goals at Anfield than Isak does. Now, this is where Liverpool are in a bit of a dilemma, because I think signing both Isak and Ekitike was absolutely stupid. The strikers are both class, utterly class. You can't sign two of them in one window. It's just overkill. It's mad, especially when you only play one up front. You were asking for trouble. And we know why this happened. Liverpool didn't really want Ekitike. He was always their plan B in case they didn't get Isak. And, you know, they just wound up getting them both. Sneaking in Isak at the last minute because they couldn't resist. They just couldn't stay away and leave Newcastle alone. It wasn't enough that they pinched Ekitike from under the nose of the Magpies after, 4 years of Newcastle trying to sign him, having done the dog work on him back in 2022. Oh no, they had to come in and steal him basically out of spite. Well, the joke is now that Ekitike looks like the better player, and Ekitike, especially now that Isak has just ruined his season by breaking his leg, it means Ekitike really is the long-term number 9 for Liverpool up front. That is his shirt to lose, and I think he's so good, he ain't going to lose it. So when Isak does come back, probably in a year's time, because let's be real, a broken leg takes between 6 and 12 weeks to recover from, but in terms of getting back up to match speed, fitness, all of that, oh no, Isak it's going to be a slow return for this Swedish muffin. And I think this is his World Cup probably done. If Sweden were even to get there, probably not. So now Graham Potter is just going to have to go one up front with Gyökeres. It's basically just ruined Isak's career as a £125 million man at the minute. The worst transfer in the history of the sport is Eden Hazard. Value for money, £100 million, and getting paid, $500,000 a week at Real Madrid. And he scored, 4 La Liga goals? Horrific and absolutely dreadful. Financial chaos. And, I'm kind of surprised that it was Barcelona whose finances were soon shattered to the point where they had to get rid of their GOAT. And not Real Madrid after this £100 million splurge on a footballer they never should have signed ever. Because as soon as Hazard was a wonderful player at Chelsea, but as soon as he went to Spain, he really just, I don't know, he must have got obsessed with McDonald's or something. Or maybe he just had had his mates shoveling donuts in his mouth while he slept. I don't know, but it was just a horrific waste of time and a financial mess. Isak, though, he could potentially be an even worse buy than Hazard. And no, not because, the guy's a Burger King addict. No, if anything, Isak could probably do with eating a couple more burgers because he is built like a pencil. But no, in terms of, having no preseason and then starting slower than Peter Crouch did at Liverpool, and that's some going. And now he's just messed up a year of his career out with a broken leg. And when he returns, he'll be close to 27, right in the prime years of his career. And again, if he comes back to Liverpool, if he's available for Liverpool next September, having missed the entire of the 2026 preseason, that's 2 preseasons in a row that he'll have missed for Liverpool, and it'll just be a complete mess. So, yeah, I really do think we're looking at probably the worst transfer of all time. Liverpool are right now in a situation I think they should have been in August, where they, instead of prioritising the Margay transfer, which they should have done to get some centre-back depth in their squad. I mean, to be fair, they didn't know that Ibrahim Konate was soon going to play like a headless teddy bear, but still, I mean, they should have brought in Gehi instead of signing Isak, and what they should have done is what Newcastle did. Newcastle signed a main first choice striker, a big expensive one, Nick Voltemada, and then they got their backup, Yohan Wissa. Wissa is somebody who Liverpool should have signed instead of Isak. And I know that sounds mad considering Isak is 10 times the player he really is. But Wissa is that perfect player you need who's happy to sit on the bench. Like what Danny Ings would have been if Jurgen Klopp had decided to keep him around. Which, you know, he could have done because Ings in around 2018, 2019 was a goal scorer. And he would have been perfect to sit on the bench for Liverpool. It's that caliber of player who's, you know, not so good he's going to kick up a fuss if he doesn't start, like Isak or probably Ekitike, but is still decent to come off the bench. Like, it's a pecking order where you know Ekitike is the main guy, and then you've got a lesser player as the plan B. That's who they should have gone for in the summer. It would have balanced out the squad a lot better. Honestly, bring in Wissa and a Gehi instead of just spending it all on Isak. That's what they should have done. And so now, with Isak being a crumpled mess in the hospital, and again, I just want to stress, I am not happy that he got injured, okay? It's no, anyone who wishes injury to a player, no. One of the newspapers has come up with a short list of 5 players who Liverpool should go out and sign in January now. One, backup strikers to bring in to replace Isak. One of them is Ivan Toney. No, if there's one player you don't want to bring in the middle of a, don't you have enough of a headache with Mo Salah right now, trying to deal with that problem child when he comes back from AFCON? What you don't want then is an Ivan Toney who's literally ditched England for money to chase the bag in Saudi, doing what Jordan Henderson did a couple of years ago. You don't want to bring that sort of player into your squad, and especially not when no. I won't even go into you. We've all seen the speculation in the no. Toney would be a bad egg to bring in right now. And again, someone who's being banned for just no. It would just be a complete ugly mess. Quality player, but oh no, Liverpool. He's the sort of a Hail Mary signing that West Ham or Leeds should be making right now. Not Liverpool. No. Next up is the 2 Serbians, Dusan Vlahovic and Alexander Mitrovic. I mean, Vlahovic would be a decent player to come in, I suppose, and warm the bench, I guess. Decent player to bring off it when, to round out the last 30 minutes of a match. Mitrovic, no. No. Mitrovic was never amazing Premier League standards anyway. He was a solid 10-goal-a-season striker for Fulham in the top flight. That was it. And now he's in his 30s, and again, he's out chasing the bag in Qatar this time, having only just joined them, some Qatari club from his Saudi adventure. He's gone. He's past it. His motivation for the sport is crumbled up. And to be honest, I was always very frustrated with Mitrovic. I know he turned into a good player at Fulham, but I remember being gassed up about him when he joined the Magpies from Anderlecht back in 2014. I thought he'd be the business. And then he got sent off in his debut against Arsenal and just never really did much at Newcastle and couldn't even get in the team when they were in the Championship. So, do I think he's good enough for Liverpool? No, I don't. Not this version. Mitchell from 3 years ago, sure, but no, not this version, no. He's someone, if he returns to the Premier League, it should be with Burnley, not Liverpool. And I know, this is not the start game just to be a plan B on the bench. So maybe, when Liverpool were reigning European champions under Rafa Benitez, they brought back a fat Robbie Fowler. That's the sort of player. Yeah, maybe Mitrovic would work there because that is the sort of player I'm talking about. Someone who's just happy to come and sit on the bench, which is exactly what Fowler was happy to do back in 2006 when he was, 32 on paper, but looked about 45. So maybe Mitrovic, I guess, as a plan B on the bench, maybe. But I just think it's dangerous bringing back players after they've already diluted their hunger and ambition in the Qatari League or the Saudi League. Nah. Next up is Danny Welbeck. I don't even need to explain to you how much this is journalistic nonsense. the gall to actually publish this in a national newspaper. Danny Welbeck, are you mad? Not only has he played for Arsenal, okay, that's fine. Okay, we've seen former Arsenal players play for Liverpool, it's fine, that's okay. But Manchester United, he's come through the Old Trafford Academy, won them the Premier League title as a squad player. Okay, I'm not saying he's down to Welbeck, but like, no, if there's one thing Liverpool will not do, it is sign a 35-year-old former Manchester United striker. This is just absolute wet nonsense. It would be embarrassing. Signing Welbeck, no, he's a good player. And look, that's the sort of profile you need for the bench. But no, replacing a 125 million pound striker with Danny D. Welbs, just nonsense. But here's the fifth and final pick, which makes sense. It's Endrick. Wipe all the players off this list. Tony, Vlahovic, Mitrovic, and Welbeck, gone. None of them really fit. None of them really suit. Endrick would be perfect. I know he's a slightly higher caliber than what I was talking about, like a Robbie Fowler, an old Robbie Fowler, but I know he'll be wanting game time, but he will. He will get more game time with Liverpool in Isak's absence than he's getting at Real Madrid, because Xabi Alonso is barely even giving him 5 minutes on the pitch. And at the minute, he looks like he's closing in on a January loan switch to a team in France, Marseille or Lyon. I think this would actually make a whole load of sense, because he's a talent. He's a he's a wonder kid, a Brazilian striker wonder kid who Xabi Alonso seems to hate for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe the guy, maybe Endrick spat in his cornflakes one morning. I don't know. But he's really got designs and ambitions to go to the World Cup of Brazil. And Carlo Ancelotti, he'll absolutely be considering calling up Endrick if he is at Anfield coming off the bench as a super sub scoring goals. I think that is the guy to bring in. He's class. He's a young, quality footballer. Do it. If you can convince Real Madrid to give you Endrick on a 6-month loan, I think this should be the business, because he's young enough not to be demanding starts. So he's taking pressure off Ekitike, but Ekitike's also got that sort of pressure on him where he knows that he has to perform every week, because if he doesn't, he can still lose a spot to this absolute gem of a wonder kid. Honestly, bring in Endrick, give him the cup games, give him the FA Cup matches, give him starts when Ekitike needs a rest, bring him on for the last 25 minutes in games. I think he'd really add something, and actually would probably lift the whole club, bringing in a player like that. Because at the minute, the last few months have been really gloomy for Liverpool and really frustrating, because you've been waiting for Isak to come good, and it's been a bit awkward having both him and Ekitike in the same squad, trying to pick between the two, when really you should be picking Ekitike every week, because Isak has just been, he's been waddling about as if his boots are filled with potatoes. But if you brought in Endrick, a player young enough, so he's not in his prime like Isak, young enough to come in, learn his trade, be happy to sit on the bench and come on for the last half an hour in games, I think this would be the perfect fit. I think it would be. Bring in Endrick for a 6-month loan. But as for Isak, you've bought yourself an expensive mess, because I don't think he returns the same player at all. Come on, he's 26 and just broke his leg? Liverpool, I think this is your hazard. Anyway, that's the video. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. What do you think? Am I wrong or am I right? Should you bring in Endrick? I think you should. But let me know in the comments. If you do, don't forget to like, share, please. I'll waffle you in a while.